Hi everyone, this is Norman Kochnick here from Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. Yes, another day, another delivery to be bowled in this test at Lords. St John's Watercourse is where Lords is in England, not far from central London itself. The reality is that England will be very buoyant, the crowd will be very upbeat. The team has slowly but surely worked their way back into this test, as well as having been down the first test where they should actually have lost that match, but the weather permitting, it's prevented what was end up being a draw. But this match, again, India looked very promising on the first day, some 3 for 273 or 276, I think it was, 276. But they ended up all out for 364 on the next day with some early wickets falling and rather disappointing effort considering where they could have been at around the 450 mark or thereabouts. But of course, then England came to bat and they lost some wickets when Siraj took hold and Joe Root came in on a hat-trick. Came on to be able to face the ball of a hat-trick. Could easily have been out. It would have been a disaster there for England. But instead, he decided to stick around, didn't he? And he not only finished the day's play, then he went into the next day, which was day 3, and scored 180 not out to put England in a very good position. By no means are they in a winning position, but they're certainly in a very good position. With the score now, England all out for 391, virtually 400. The score that probably India would have liked to have got in the first innings themselves. So effectively, they're 27 runs in front. Joe Root's 180 was very, very impressive. Not out. It's his 22nd Test century. I think he's now got, if I'm not wrong, well, he's got well over 9,000 runs. In fact, he's got 9,067 runs. 9,067 runs at a batting average, which is now over 50. The first, I shouldn't say the first, but the only batter in the England top 10 of all-time run scorers to have a batting average of 50 plus. The other 9 in that order don't have 50s as a batting average. And Joe Root is now second on that list with 9,067. He only has Alistair Cook in front of him on 12,000 odd runs. And that means that Joe Root now will be certainly a position where he can apply himself. He's in his early 30s. He has every chance of making his way past Root on the all-time list of scoring runs for his country. I'm just going to go to the batting records for a moment and have a look at that. Most runs in a career. Joe Root's nicely highlighted there. He is behind Graham Smith, who's on 9,265, but he's on 9,067. He's beaten Graham Groups there, who was on 8,900, so he's gone 167 in front of him. Scored 22 centuries, 50-50s, at an average of 50.09. Very impressive. He's only had eight ducks too. So he's into his 107th Test match. Now let's have a look here. 3, 4, 5. Alistair Cook is actually 5th on the overall list with 12,472. So 3,000, less than 3,400. We'll see Cook beaten by Root. So effectively, Cook is 5th on that list. Just quickly go through the list. Tendulkar's number 1 with 15,921. Ponting second with 13,378. Then Cullis is third with 13,289. Dravid 4th with 13,288. Beaten by Cullis by 1 run. Then Cook is coming in at 5th on 12,472. Then in 6th is in fact Kumar Sanghara, the MCC chairman. 3, 6, so yep. And then Lara on 11,953 is in 7th. 8th is Chandler Paul with 11,867. 9th is Jay Widener with 11,814. Border rounds up the 10th position with 11,174. Then comes Steve Waugh, who I've had on the show. He came in 11th at 10,927. Gavaskar's on 12th. Yunus Khan on 13th. Hashim Amla on 14th. Graham Smith is 15th. And Root is now effectively the 16th highest run scorer for England. So he's well on his way, 107 tests. the way he's going, he'll certainly knock off Cook and could threaten the top four. He probably won't pass Tendulkar or Ponting, but he'll go very close to the rest. That's a very impressive effort by Joe Root. Indeed. I'll take a screenshot of that. Now, I'm expecting a few people to be here, namely David Gravy, who's been fantastic. In fact, Adam Hollier promised he'd be here as well, but he may not be. We'll have to just wait. They should be gloating. Their team, England that is, has won quite handsomely, and they should be very, very happy with their situation, shouldn't they? So, let's have a look here. Bear with me a sec, guys. I'm just going to get something. Give me 2 seconds. All right, I'm back, guys. Looking for me? I'm here. Oops. Come back. Yeah, so Joe Root, as I said, is the 16th highest spot. With Gooch going to 17th. Then some Pakistanis, Mandad, Al-Haq, Mzimam Al-Haq, and Luxman. And De Villiers is right up there as well. Mike Clark, Hayden, Saywag, Vivian Richards, Alex Stewart-Gower, Peterson, Boycott, Sobers, War, Atherton, Bell, Langer, Cowdery, and then Coley, who still has a batting average of 51.62 despite what you would argue be a slightly lean form of late. He's still up there as well. So he's now around about just under 1,500 runs behind Root. And he's got to get that in about 40 innings. So it's going to be a bit of an order for Root. But Root, Coley's on in line to do it. Let's have a look here. Yeah, of course, I also should say up front, happy 75th anniversary of Independence Day of India. So that makes it 1946, 75 years ago. Massive amount of time. It certainly has flown. Not that I'm that old, but 75 years. My mother was 14, 15 at that stage. So yeah, she would have been probably 15, not quite 15. Amazing. I recommend Rahul to hold one end and Rohit, Coley, Punt and Jadeja to take their turns in playing their shots. Rahane Pujara can bat below them if the above four fall. Rahul Rahane Pujara can save the test. That's a pretty bold statement. India has to bat the whole day today and at least cross 250 lead probably. But again, if India bats well today, they are going looking at a draw tomorrow. Yeah, it's a bit frustrating that way, guys, isn't it? Good luck to winning, yes, Sunday says. Good luck to the Shrine. Hopefully, India scored to get a 250 lead. Yep, 1947, is it? So how can it be 75 years then? I thought it was 1940. This is 2021. If it's 75 years, Baramaran explained that to me. If it's 1947, then it's 74 years, not 75 years. Correct? I'm sure I've seen 75th anniversary. I think it's the 75th anniversary of the 1946 and 47. There were two things that happened because there's something that happened in 46 and 47. So I think it was the birthday is 46 and the independence. Well, no, the independence is 46 and the anniversaries. There's a distinct difference between 46 and 47. Let's have a little look at that. Let's have a look here. I'm pretty sure that what I saw of that, this is confirmed. Welcome, David.
Norman, a thrilling day at Lord's.
It certainly was. And it's happy anniversary to India today. There's argument whether it's 1946 or 47. I think one was an anniversary, one's an independence. They're two different days. But So that's also occurred. You must be very happy about yesterday's performance.
Well, I think for Joe Root, it was an extraordinary day. If there was any doubt about his quality as a batsman, he solved that problem. So
Yeah, he was quite
delighted for
phenomenal.
him. Delighted for him because he's a delightful young man. So it's now the Indian middle order come under the microscope. So.
Very much so. But you would argue a little bit. Again, let's see what happens. This is their day. This is frankly India's day of reckoning. We've said that a few times, but they had the opportunity in the first test, but it rained out, so we didn't see them come to the fore. But today, the Indian upper middle order will have to show their wares, won't they?
Well, the England bowlers will think if we can break through the opening partnership, then we're really sort of at them. In terms of the period of time that India have to bat, they've got to bat today and part of one session, I would imagine, really to. There's one result that is unlikely, which is an Indian victory. The other two are possible.
That's interesting, isn't it? So, I mean, England would have to, if they were to lose, which is saying India will not win, Root would have to get out very cheaply, and there have to be quite a massive collapse. But it's unlikely. You're right. The reality is
unless there's an alteration in the wicket. The wicket itself seems to be playing pretty well, but there seems to be the odd collapse, isn't it? Sort of. And India stuck to their task, which they had to do, and a bit row against England in first day that they just came up against a batsman who was in prime form. But once they sort of opened up the other end, and there weren't wild shots being played. People getting caught at slip, and does show that actually if you keep getting the ball in the right place, you can cause some havoc. So I don't know the Pujara, Kohli, Rana, whether they got too much sleep last night, but they know they're under the microscope now. So because they all averaged 20 in 2021. So
things are not looking good. I unearthed a photograph of you, David. In fact, somebody sent it to me, of you shaking the hands of James Anderson, and it might have been Dominic Cork, I'm not sure. You gave them their caps.
Yeah, their Anthony Mcgraw, the other guy was.
Who was it, sorry?
Anthony Mcgraw, who used to play.
Ashley Mcgraw.
Yeah, who's now coach at Essex. Again, very nice chap.
How many games did he play for England? I don't remember much of his test career.
Played a little bit. Played a few one days. It wasn't just couldn't really produce what he did in domestic cricket, which is it's not through lack of effort, but
right. So let me just get that name right. Ashley is an Ashley, or is it Lei?
No, Anthony. Anthony. Mcgraw.
Hang on, let me just get. I'm at because okay. Say it again.
Anth Anthony, like Tony.
Anthony. I'm not Ashley. Okay. Anthony Mcgraw. Okay.
Yeah. Mcgraw, like in
Glenn.
Like Glenn.
So he's currently the coach. Anthony Mcgraw is currently the coach of Sussex.
Essex.
I'm obviously having problems with my hearing today.
He took over from Silverwood when Silverwood was promoted to go to England.
I'm actually just recording this because I've actually posted your picture on my community page of my YouTube because it was such an impressive photo, very apt. So, okay, Anthony Mcgraw was in the photograph with you, and obviously Jimmy Anderson. Of course, the fact is that it was impressive. So, where was that? What ground was that?
That's in front of Lord's.
That was at Lord's.
Yeah, that's where sort of the old-fashioned sort of capping used to take place. So the captain would have walked off, having had the toss. The two players would have been asked to come down to the front of the pavilion. So we just did the capping there and then. So it would have been the only problem that has is if the captain is an opening batsman or the cap players are opening batsmen, and then therefore you're disrupting their routine. So quite rightly, they've now chosen to do it sort of amongst themselves, getting a famous broadcaster or some an ex-player. So it was one of the privileges. It was a nice thing to do, but I can understand why people probably didn't. They wanted it to be done slightly differently. Let's put it like that. So.
Well, maybe they should have got you to hand James Anderson his 100th cap. Did you do that?
Yeah, that could have happened, but they also like, I think, to deliver a speech within the group. So sort of so it'd be other players who do it actually. So like Josh Butler awarded Owen Morgan his 100th cap for limited overs, which is a tremendous achievement, and obviously delivered because they're the best of friends. So obviously delivered a speech like that, and the Aussies do it that way now as well. So,
I get all that, but I'm just saying because of the reality that you had actually given him the first cap, there's a bit more to that. My God, there's a lot of Andersons that have played they're in the list of players. It's interesting.
They also have a series of pictures over his Test career of his hairstyles, which are quite extraordinary, really. So.
Now, it's a rather special thing to be able to have given. Have you had a chat to James Anderson much of late?
I sent him a text when he got 100, when he broke the wickets record. So, and it carried that picture. So I just put something underneath. So I said it's been a bit of a journey for both of us since that day. So.
Oh my God, yeah. So when did he get capped? What was the year?
I think that is.
Just trying to look it up.
I think
it says his debut.
2002.
It was against him. It was actually 2003.
All right.
And it says it was England played Zimbabwe at Lord's in that match.
I think he'd actually made his debut in the World Cup in South Africa, because I think that's the same year.
Yeah, he made his ODI in 2020.
Burst onto the scene when he knocked over Pakistan. So I think one of his first wickets was Inzamam, followed by Johanna, who was a serious player for Pakistan.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was quite. It's quite a big deal. I mean, we're talking 2003, so he's effectively been playing Test cricket for over 18 years now, as James Anderson, which would be one of the longest stints of a bowler, a fast bowler. Certainly, I don't think there's many fast bowlers that have lasted 18 years for their country.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to say that and if you met him for real time, Norman, the first thing you say how thin he was.
He said
carries no weight or anything like that. And he and as I alluded to before the last time we were talking, I think the decision by the England management, and he wouldn't have been happy about it at the time, about to stand him down from white ball cricket, was an inspired decision, because that's he wouldn't be playing.
Oh, absolutely. So that would have been May. I'm just recording all these days. May 22nd, 2003 was the date that it looks as though he was given his cap by you.
It was. Yeah, we had an interesting decision actually then, because we had to choose between a very young Steve Harmison, who then broke into the team a bit later, and a guy called Ed Giddings, who made his debut there, who had been successful as a county bowler, but I have to choose my words carefully here. Had some queries about his action, I think is the way that I would put it, Norman. So Harmison probably should have played, and he eventually did, in order to be in the side that played in 2005.
So I remember James Anderson went to Australia. I think that must have been very early in his career in a Test series, and Langer and Hayden absolutely took to him and absolutely plundered him. Actually, at that stage, I thought Anderson wouldn't last long, because in Australia he did cop a bit of
Yeah, I
whacking.
think the same thing happened when Steve Smith got double hundreds in England. That the one thing that he has learned, which has been absolutely devastating to the opposition, is that he generally is an outswing bowler to right-handers. And as I would say, if you really want to succeed against Australia, you would go in with left-handed opening batsmen, because the natural bowler in Australia tends to be somebody who bowls at fifth stump to a right-handed batsman. So the Strauss-Cook combination did exactly what Hayden and Langer did, because a nationally outswing bowler finds it really difficult to bowl to a left-hander. And until Jimmy now has perfected this ball, which he can slant it across the left-handers, which he really, because it's something that he's created, that's the thing that makes it absolutely devastating.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean,
because
if you are right,
the left-hander doesn't know whether it's going to swing back, or so he gets drawn into playing things that are they look as if they're wide, but they're not wide as they're coming down the wicket, because he thinks they're going to swing back into the left-hander. So when Langer and Hayden played against him, it was the same as Smith. That you could set the field up to try and slant it across, but that just wasn't a normal ball for Jimmy to bowl. So, and I think it's also been countered by people. They either do what Jimmy does, which is, I think, a much more devastating delivery, or the tendency now to bowl round the wicket at left-handers. So
Broad certainly does that, doesn't he?
So you're trying to sort of mix up the angle for the batsman. So if you didn't swing it back naturally, which Broadie doesn't tend to do, swing it, then you can just defend the line of your off stump and not get drawn into it. Going round does make it a bit more complicated.
The other couple of things that I noted from yesterday, they weren't necessarily related to the match, was one very funny incident and one was probably not so funny. Did you see that guy called Jarvo 69? Did you see him walking in with the Indian fields? That was quite funny.
Yeah. That was, yeah. What was the thing that wasn't very funny, Norman?
Well, the throwing of champagne corks onto the field.
Yeah, that's I realise that everybody's really excited, and you're being at a cricket ground for X number of hours, and actually you wouldn't have seen it, but they played a 100-ball game later on in the evening, because it was a really lovely evening at the Oval, which was basically the size that would represent Surrey and Middlesex, which always has a lot more of an edge to it. So, that was played in front of a massive crowd of families. I often doubted whether we could reproduce the same sort of atmosphere as a Big Bash game when it first started, of a full ground with lots of families and things like that, which was reproduced last night, which was fantastic.
Oh, that's great. I'm not talking about that. That's the fireworks, the families, all that's good. I'm just concerned, and I don't know exactly what transpired, so I can't comment with great facts, but the corks, the multiple champagne corks, would they have been ejected from an actual glass champagne bottle? Or do they have plastic champagne bottles?
No, the MCC regulations allow you to bring one bottle in, I think. They do change them, because I know that the serving of beer in Australia altered when somebody, if it was in a can or something like that, or actually, I think it was a water bottle, was thrown from one level of the stand to people below, and that's a dangerous object if it's full.
Oh yes.
So they'll come up with the MCC have always defended their regulations against others. The ability, you would have seen pictures of people bagging spots on the lawns outside the back of the pavilion with this sort of putting a blanket down and a hamper and just walking off. It's the most extraordinary thing. And they're still there when they come back 2 hours later.
Oh, we all like it. I mean,
do that.
The Java.
You wouldn't do that in a local park, would you?
I mean, that Java 69, I think, was excellently done. It was so nonchalantly done. There was no. I don't think people really saw what was going on until the guy was well and truly onto the field. And I enjoyed watching Siraj and a few of the other players laughing their heads off because he was saying, "Oh, look, I've got the jersey on. Look, it's got the Indian thing on there." It was just brilliantly done.
No.
In fact, that guy's notorious for it. He's done that at swimming. Like, may have been the Olympics or Commonwealth Games. He went on the diving board and dived off the top of the diving board mid session.
Well, as long as he doesn't hurt himself and others, it's you need a bit.
That's amusing.
You need a bit of humour from time to time. So.
the way he handled it, he was a really big bloke because the security guards were dwarfed by him, and he was there with this Javo 69 Indian shirt on, and he's pointing at the emblem, and then the guys would take him off, and he was celebrating and waving to the crowd. He did it very well. I'm sure he'll probably got a $5,000 fine or something, will he? Or
probably won't be a fine. It won't be. I think hopefully they use their common sense and maybe he has an early bath. Well,
in Australia,
there has to be some consequence, otherwise everybody else will do it. So
exactly. I mean, in Australia, you get I'm not sure the exact figure, 5,000 or 6,000.
No, you get some hefty fines go on there for invading, coming onto the.
You get often banned for 2 years, and also, and if you go nude, the fees go through the roof.
Yeah. There's certainly in terms of the consequence of streaking or anything like that are pretty hefty. But fortunately, that's a trend that has stopped at the moment. So
there's a guy in Australia that's a pest who does it. He runs across in front of horse races while the horse race is taking place. He does some very dangerous things.
Well,
imagine running in front of horses.
The horses collide with each other, then the jockeys might fall off. So that's just been completely irresponsible. So
it's quite dangerous, yeah. But Javo will be back, I'm sure. Okay. But there was a fair bit of discussion about the Cork incident. Let me have a look at the same. Yeah. Okay, what we're looking at, he thinks this is for something the rain saying he thinks the edges were not getting caught in Trent Briggs. Also, Root was lucky. Why is this happening? Can India promote Jadeja and save Pujara from Anderson? You know, do you think there's any merit at all about putting Jadeja up the order?
Good theory, and there's no doubt that having a lot of right-handed batsmen makes the job a little bit easier for the bowlers because they can set themselves up on a certain line. I think it's the same. It's the same scenario about night watchmen. You know, why are you sending in a night watchman? You know, if I went in, I could be out first ball the following day. So, what are you trying to prove? And I think Australia have been really good. They tend to send in the next batsman because they see it's a waste of time. And also, the message that is being sent to the bowler is that he's not physically frightened.
He's being feared.
He just doesn't want to see him. So if you do that with Jadeja, then they just keep Anderson up their sleeve until Pujara came in. So he just has to face the battle full on.
When did they first start
using playing in the second innings at Trent Bridge was much more him. So he's actually had to come and bat when the conditions haven't been, you know, they're playable, but not actually, you know, blistering sunshine. You know, Joe Root, you know, would be the first one to admit those were the best conditions of the match so far for him to bat in. And it's, you know, without boring everybody yet again, it's what's above you rather than below you. And there was plenty of sunshine yesterday. So,
it was a beautiful day for cricket, and so far England have been very lucky in both Test matches because they've been afforded the days when the weather's been at its best to bat. In the first of their 300 scores on probably the best.
I'm sure a combination of, and I'm sure Ravi Shastri will come to the fore in terms of, you know, preparing his chaps properly without going, you know, just back your ability, out you go, and you know, just keep knocking, but be positive. The one thing they have to do, they have to score runs, because if you don't score runs, you are well, you're just leaving the door ajar, and that people, you can lose a hat. Anybody can get out early doors, which the tails in both teams have done. And England have a lot more ability on paper from sort of 8 down, dare I say it, than probably India do. But they also got blown away as well. So it all adds up.
It was interesting because I thought Bairstow batted well. Butler and Ali were reasonable. Curran got out first forward. The reality was it wasn't a lot of help for Root, really. It was all on Root's back.
And the same was around Pujara to a degree.
Exactly.
Not Pujara, around Rao. It was just a very standout. It's just a fantastic innings. He's converted a possible losing position into a possible winning position, basically all on his own, which takes some doing.
Oh, it's quite amazing, actually. Look, in terms of this, last night I had a lot of discussion with people on the viewers. From the viewers, they said they keep wanting to know who the top batsmen are, in my opinion. And I always maintain Kohli's up there, but you'd have to argue that Williamson winning the World Test Championship and Root's form throughout the season this year puts them as the top 2 in current form, with perhaps Kohli following Babar Azam. And then
is there something to drawn from the fact that Root doesn't play as much white ball cricket as everybody else? So he's actually played quite a lot of county cricket for Yorkshire leading up to the New Zealand series and the Indian series. So he doesn't take part in the IPL. I'm not sure whether he's playing in a 100 ball franchise, but again, I think that's been a decision of England because he is captain and the pressures that has to just give him some break. He's got a young family, and to keep him fresh and wanting him to come to work, which I'm sure he does. So I'm not sure, but you look at the amount of white ball cricket that, for instance, Kohli plays, and to a lesser degree, Williamson plays. And the one thing that is a real alarm bell for me is that Williamson continues to have quite lengthy treatment for an elbow injury, and that can be devastating if you don't.
You're making a very good point. I would argue that Virat Kohli, despite having some time off with his wife when she had a child early in the year, he must be somewhat stale because he's played so much throughout the year, including IPL.
Yeah,
and he plays a lot of the cricket that goes on. There must be an element of staleness about him, a little bit.
Staleness. I think he plays a lot of real high pressure cricket. When the moment he walks to the crease, and I don't know what would have gone through Tendulkar's mind or anything. Expectation is basically off the radar with these guys, and they're human. It must wear them down after a while. That and they'll be disappointed. But just Kohli, they are remarkable people. So it'd be quite interesting to see. I fully expect him to come to the party, Virat Kohli.
I hope he takes.
And it won't be. It will be to lead his team into calmer waters, and it won't have anything to do with the honours board, Norman. So don't worry.
But it would. I mean, I'm sure Kohli would love to hit a century. I'm sure his name up there.
Yeah.
I mean, of course. So the England players, and I don't know whether it's the whole side, but I guess there's a top tier of player, captain, some of the leading players of the team, like a James Anderson, that are on about £500,000 a year. Is that right?
Don't know. You don't know the level of endorsements they have. If they are, they richly deserve it. Certainly, those two do. And that if you compare that even with rugby union players, and also the Premiership football started yesterday, Norman. The amount of money that people are receiving, or you only have to look at Messi. How much is his weekly wages to move at 34 from Barcelona to PSG? You're talking some, £500,000 a week, let alone a year. So
it is. It's a bit staggering. So we're talking about $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
To $500,000 a week. That's just staggering.
Yeah. Well, it's an entertainment. So
Oh yeah, there's people paying for it. There's people that are
pay for
supporting
it.
it.
So yeah, and I do think that, you know, the international career. I know that Jimmy's pushing the boundaries back, but it tends to be a pretty short experience. And I think I can remember reading an article whereby people were predicting that the amount of income that a real top sportsman, you know, earns, that would enable him not to have to work for the rest of his life. There's only a very small percentage that applies to. So,
But again, as we know, people in this bracket, and I'll give an example of even Jeff Thompson back in the day was earning ridiculous amounts of money while he was playing because Kerry Packer took care of him. But then their life has ended up being in bankruptcies and, you know, lack of money because a lot of them easy come, easy go. They're not always good investors, are they?
Well, they also surround themselves with people who a bit like vultures, really. They prey off them and suggest business adventures that line the pockets of the guys recommending them, and the player knows no different, really. So
it's true. There's a lot of this. To jump onto my investment scheme, I'll take $500,000 up front, and the rest of it will make a lot of money out of it. They don't.
I think did that not happen to Andrew Simons? That he got involved in some investments that didn't work out.
There's quite a few players.
I think that happened to Adam Hurriot's dad as well in Western Australia. So it's,
Craig McDermott got involved with a property development matter which went crazily wrong. There's quite a few bad examples.
Yeah. So anyway, but whatever they get, they richly deserve. So.
Hopefully. Can you tell me? I'm assuming the ECB. There are managers, I know, individual players, but I'm sure the ECB, when handing over this money, probably offer financial services to them, either directly or indirectly.
Yeah, what has happened, and I have some knowledge of this because I was involved indirectly. This is to do with the Professional Cricketers Association, the PCA. So the ACA would be the equivalent when it was run by Rob Marsh's son. When it was, and they had some extraordinary, powerful negotiations with the Australian Cricket Board about sort of the share of the success of that generation of Australian cricketers who were sweeping all before them. So the England team, together with the PCA and ECB, basically created a thing called the Team England Player Partnership. So there was an outside body that basically represented the players and also looked after their commercial activity as a group, as opposed to an individual, which was and depending on how much you played and your seniority with the team, depending on the share that you would take at the end. So they didn't have to do it. They didn't have their own agents sort of signing deals that help them, but not necessarily the player. So as a result of it, it's just much more equitable. So a young lad making his debut would still be part of that, but not quite have the same financial dividend as an Anderson or a Root, which is quite right. So.
That's good. That's excellent.
I mean, it's stayed in place, and I think the ACA have followed that structure.
They have. I think they both. There would be a lot of what's the word? A lot of comparison of notes. I'm sure there where they'd want to learn from each other, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and within the Team England Player Partnership, I think that you know when a major sponsorship deal is signed, there is, and I've seen this with the ACA. There is a structure of how many personal appearances the player makes. So it's really well organised in terms of what they've got to do in terms of the role. And
you know what I'm assuming when a player gets paid, let's just pick a figure, $500,000 a year, right? In Australia, we have obviously a form of superannuation. I'm sure England has a similar situation in your country. I would assume that it would be a good thing if the ACA or your PCA, whatever it's called, get involved where they make sure that the person is given money, but also a certain amount is put away for their superannuation. I'm
Well,
assuming that would.
not necessarily put away, not like a Gary Sobers type scenario, but a bit more of the right sort of advice and the right lawyers are representing them. So they'll have the best financial advice possible, but they are treated like adults as opposed to children. But they can access some really top, as far as lawyers are concerned. These are lawyers that represent the royal family, so they are
Wow.
the best in their profession. Obviously, cricket fans, because they wouldn't be doing it otherwise.
Yeah.
But the actual decisions of who gets what is invariably left to the players to do what they want to do.
I've got no doubt. I just wanted to show you, this is the so-called Sunday Telegraph here in Australia. And I've spoken to you about the South Sydney Rabbitohs before, and you mentioned, I think, the knowledge of Sam Burgess, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, he's on the front pages today, as you can see there. And it says, Sam Burgess, explosive first interview. I'm sober from drugs, cocaine arrest, final straw, how Rusty saved him, which is Russell Crowe. The fact is that he's had a pretty bad situation occur. Well, he was caught under the influence of cocaine in a car matter. He was pulled over for a random test and he was found with cocaine, which was the final straw for him. Russell Crowe, who's one of his mentors, in a lot of ways has come to his attention. He went through the breakup with his wife, and he obviously had a drug addiction and an alcohol addiction. So the poor guy, from the highs of winning a 2014 grand final in Australia and doing what he's done, he's dipped off a little bit, and now it looks like he's back on the way ahead. So
has he been suspended for that, Norman, or not?
Well, he's no longer playing.
He's stopped playing.
Sorry?
Has he stopped playing completely?
Yes, because he damaged his shoulder. I think it was a season or so ago. It was so bad that the doctors recommended he stopped playing altogether, as the injury was not recovering and it was a permanent chronic injury. So he stopped playing. It would have been not last season, maybe the season before, and I think he lost the plot of it. And he obviously had the situation with his breakup of his marriage and some of the issues with his ex-wife's father. His brothers, Thomas Burgess, is still playing in Australia for South Sydney. George has been, I think, at the Catalans in France. I'm not sure where. And he's now coming back to play for St. George next year. And Luke's still here. They've got a business called 4B, which is the four Burgess brothers. It's a clothing industry, so they're doing okay. Right. But yeah, Sam's got off the rails a little bit of late. Looks like he's turned the corner, you would argue. It's pretty sad, actually.
No, it's sad. And it's good that Russell Crowe...
He's a tremendous bloke. He's a local to my...
Is that his great passion, Russell Crowe, rugby league?
Oh, hugely. Yeah. Well, he actually owns the South Sydney Rabbitohs. He owns them.
Does he? Right.
So he's an owner with James Packer, of Kerry Packer's sons. Yeah, so they're part of... Well, really, Russell Crowe owns the team, to be honest.
Right.
Despite being a New Zealander.
Is that the team that you support, Norman?
Oh, absolutely. Can't you see that? It's right there.
Oh, right.
That's the South Sydney Rabbitohs right there.
The same colours as Leicester Rugby Club, that is.
Is it? Really? Well, South are actually coming equal second this year, and they look like they're in with a very good chance of winning the competition again after having won last time in 2014. So we're all excited here about that. And I have a lot to do with the club. One of my schoolmates is the manager of the club, Mark Ellison, a former player, and a lot of my friends. I'm pretty close to a lot of the South players, ex-players, and they're friends of mine from years back. So I've got a pretty close connection. So yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. It's good to see Sam on the recovery, but he did go through. You do get. I'm assuming you have random drug tests in the London streets, don't you? Yeah.
Well, it's noticeable to see that there's been instances in the Olympic Games of a GB sprinter being found, and I do draw because I served on still serve on the discipline commission with the ECB, and I'm not playing down the gravity of the situation, but there is a difference between performance enhancing drugs and also social drugs. So I'm saying that in Sam's case, which sounds very, very sad, that is actually a social social problem. That is not going to make him a better rugby player or anything like that. So it's just sad it happens.
Now, Suman Awathi's just made a comment that Virat has his own restaurant. I'm not surprised by that. Sachin Tendulkar had a restaurant, I remember, as well in Mumbai.
Well, Sangakkara and Jayawardena, they own a chain of restaurants, don't they?
Exactly.
Crab Pot, isn't it? Or
it's called Ministry of Crab. It's
Ministry of Crab. Sorry, nearly got it right. So.
Yeah, that's based on the original one's in the old Dutch house in Colombo Central. There.
Yeah.
I've been there many times.
No. Well, the seafood in Colombo is extraordinary. So.
Oh, gotcha. In fact, I went there with former female cricketer Shapali Virakoti and a friend of hers, as well as a fellow called Jeff Lemon, who's got his own podcast now. He's a journalist, and Jeff wasn't doing too well financially when he went with me, and he was very desperate to eat. And we served up a big meal. He scoffed the crab down so quickly, he ended up having to vomit at the end of the night because he ate too fast and too much. It was hilarious. Well, so whenever I see Jeff Lemon, I bag him about that.
Well, my friend Anna Punchehewa, which might be a familiar name to you.
Yeah.
He used to take me to a restaurant which was, I think, I'm just on the outskirts of Colombo. Might have been somewhere near Mount Lavinia, where you basically sort of walk across the railway line, because that's the norm in Sri Lanka. So the railway line quite close to the beach. And you actually it was situated on the beach, and they just did fantastic prawns, and you just sat there with bare feet, and off you went. So it's,
that would have been in front of Mount Lavinia. I know the restaurant you're talking about. It's basically on the sand there. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's hopefully at some stage I can go back again, even if it's just for one last time. So.
Well, what I was going to suggest, Chris Vernon said to me, or we've spoken a few times. In fact, just 2 years ago, we played each other at MCC versus SCG11 in England, actually. But Chris and the like may get a team together, and I might bring a team together, as I've done for me. I, in fact, took a cricket team every year for 16 years to Sri Lanka. We can reignite that, and perhaps you can come along and we can have a bit of fun and have some cricket games in Colombo.
I'd love to. So what's your timings today, Norman? Are you 6 o'clock again? Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, 6 o'clock tomorrow. You mean it's after the game? Yeah. It'll be straight after the match. If the match finishes at 6:30, it'll be 6:30. If it finishes at 6, it'll be 6.
Fine, that's all right. Sorry, we've got another segment of the birthday this afternoon, UK time, for the 4-year-old who still hasn't run out of time yet. So.
Well, you're welcome anytime.
She's about to get her Cinderella dress this afternoon, so she'll be very excited.
As long as you're not wearing the Cinderella dress, you're not wearing it.
I don't think I could fit into it, to be fair, but there you go.
So what do you think is going to happen today? What do you think? What is your?
Not here today, then?
Sorry,
Sid is not here today, so he's on his.
No, Sid will be joining. It's just that he normally comes about another 20 minutes. We're normally talking when he arrives. He'll be here. Adam Holyoke was supposed to be here today. Adam promised me he would come. He may be.
So
late.
Are you live at the minute, Norman, or not?
Oh, we've been live for the last 48 minutes.
Oh, right. Okay, that's fine.
I'm just trying to find out. Adam said he was coming. He promised he would come. Well, Monty's turned up already at the time he's been a part of it. But Sid's not here. That's all right. Well, they'll come. I've got to be respectful to them. I'm very happy you're here, but I can't expect everybody to be here all the time, I guess. And I'm very, very lucky that you're here. But I have a photo of I'm going to be posting of Chris and myself with another friend of mine. That was 2 years ago at Lord's when Australia was playing England.
Yeah,
2 years ago, and we were there together for that. We had a good old time, I must admit. There was a wonderful test match, and we had our Lord's dinner in the long room. We played against MCC, which was a very good game. We played games at.
Is this the fixture of MCG? Is it?
That was the SCG 11, the Sydney Cricket 11, versus the Marylebone. So now the MCG one, which normally follows on the 6th day of the test, we had one as well, but it's not quite that perfectly timed. We played the MCC as well. and that's been happening every Ashes series now. I think it's about the fourth one we've done that.
I've
one
seen,
in 09.
I've seen it advertised the other way round. In other words, when the Ashes are played in Australia, you know, to basically saying to MCC members to join an MCC trip, and after the Test match in Melbourne, this fixture will be taking place. So
that's a regular. That's a regular. The MC. I think they're called the 29ers, which is the MCG, have their equivalent team. We have the SCG 11, and we have had a game at Lords or the nursery ground itself, or even another ground. I think it's been 09, 13, 15, and 19. We've had a series which we've gone. Yeah. We're having another one in 2023. Actually, that's early stages, but it's been planned for the Ashes series in 2023, which is less than 2 years away now, or just about 2 years away. So that's the plan, which is a very, very, very exciting. We have a lot of fun. We get really into it. We have a huge Lords. Mike Gatting was there.
It's brilliant because I have to pick it's more at schoolboy level, really. So you're giving young people the opportunity to play at Lords. This is I think September the 8th or something like that.
Right.
It's a fantastic because they may never have that opportunity again to play. So
it actually is something to look forward to. You have a great function in the long run, which is magnificent, as you know. That's probably one of the most incredible, quintessential things to have experienced, for sure. And we had Mike Gatting and Brian Lara.
It is when Mark Nicholas, who obviously has been a commentator in Australia and really, really good at what he does, when he is emceeing some PCA dinners, because those functions for the PCA is the only income the charity gets, which is I'm president of the Cricket Association Trust. So he often chairs or is the MC for those, and he gives a bit of a conducted tour to the pitches, and this is a quote you would have heard many, many times before, but it wasn't. If you've never been to Lords, you wouldn't understand. But the value of the pitches, how often do they get changed? You know, the little boy with the bat is one of the pictures. I personally prefer the portraits of the players, and he goes around. There's W.G. Grace there and Bradman, and then he stops at a picture, and then again, this is only talking to my uncle because he obviously played against him. There is a picture of Keith Miller there, which not the best picture because it was probably done when he was illness was beginning to set in, so it was a thin sort of portrayal of him. But he did retell the story of Keith Fletcher's definition of pressure, and he said he was asked by some commentator, "Do you ever feel under pressure when you're playing cricket?" And he said no. And he says, "Why not?" He said, "Young man, the definition of pressure is when you are flying and you've got a Messerschmitt 109 up your arse. That is pressure."
It's a great statement. And can I add something to that? Do you realise I have a video of one of my street talks, which I did about a month ago? Random, okay? Extremely random. And a young man, I think I may have told you this, a young man come up to me and started to talk to me. And as we had the conversation, he opened up and told me that he was related to a famous cricketer. He happened to be his grand uncle was in fact Keith Miller.
Is that right?
His name is Bass Miller. And that exact thing you just said about the Messerschmitt, he said the same thing to me. And I have to send you the link to that. It's actually one of the videos I have. I met him randomly on Coogee Bay Road, unannounced.
Yeah.
And asked him about something very, very, very casually, and it happened to be him. Isn't that amazing?
There's some coincidences are extraordinary, and one of the best up there. I'm not trying to trump what you just said, but when I first went as a manager for the one-day squad, this is with Adam being captain, Adam Holyoke, we were always sent to Brisbane to prepare while the test team was still playing. So I've done my job of going to the bank to get the expenses for the players for the following week, because you wouldn't be carrying large sums of money. So I just had a pair of training shorts on or whatever. But the end result is my wallet fell out in the taxi. And when I got to the ground at Queensland, the guy who was the ground manager, very nice guy, said, "Grav, you've got no chance of finding that wallet." So as the time difference, I was just about to phone from the hotel in Brisbane to cancel the board credit card, which had a limit of a small amount of about £50,000 on it. And as I was about to ring, my mobile went, and the guy from Queensland said, "You wouldn't believe it, that actually the taxi driver has basically identified you are the holder of the wallet and wants to bring it round." And he just said, "That is remarkable." And as he finished, he said, "There's a message that this guy wants to do, is to say hi to your father, because they both went to school in Bristol as young people." Now, what are the chances of that? One,
virtually none. That's incredible.
Two, of the taxi driver knowing my father. So
that's amazing. That is amazing. I will make sure that I send you the link to that video about Bass Miller. Having heard what you just said, it's amazing. But can you believe you're meeting? I mean, you've had the same experience over many times, especially when you hang around.
Well, some really odd things, but odd things in Australia. I can remember my son went on a cricket tour to Australia with his school, and they were billeted out to the families of the schools or school that they were playing. And he had a fantastic time. We got a message from the mother of the family to say that he is a delightful young man, and he was so tired of having this trip. They played the day that they arrived in Australia, having left from England, and they wouldn't have had travel of that distance. And the mother said, "Your son is, he's really enjoying it." The time difference he was finding difficult when he fell asleep in his barbecue on a second night because he was that tired. But again, an irony. So we're playing on this trip. Same time, I've been a year after. Step out of the hotel in Melbourne. All right, so there's quite a number of people on Melbourne streets. So I would go about 10 yards and met by a guy who was walking along with his young son, and he said, "You David Graveney?" "Yeah." And he said, "Well, pleased to meet you. Your son was billeted with us when he came on tour to Australia." So, how many people live in Melbourne? And he hadn't gone there to seek me out because he didn't know that I was involved with the team because I'm not playing. So, just extraordinary ironies, aren't they?
Oh, that's what life's all about. Now, people are asking about today's weather. I'm not seeing any report as such. I don't know offhand.
Just bear with me. I will give them an update.
Okay.
Mostly cloudy.
Right.
Starting clouds, sunny intervals from midday onwards. Temperature about 22 degrees, 23 degrees. So perfect day for cricket.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and is that similar for tomorrow? I think tomorrow's also a similar.
Yeah, I think the weather's quite good for next week. So, yeah, so rain will not intervene. It'll have to be the skill of the Indian batsman. The skill of the England bowlers.
So do you think today, obviously India are going to bat. They've got, despite the form that they're in, they've got a fair batting lineup, upper batting lineup. Perhaps their tail wags a bit. What do you think is a reasonable expectation score-wise in today's play from India?
Well, if they given on the first day they scored 270 odd for 3, and that was deemed to be a really, really good day. I envisage that it'll be a bit of a game of cat and mouse, Norman. That the England will attack, and they'll probably have a sustained attack depending on how early they make a breakthrough. Then they might have a bit of a situation if somebody settles into a partnership. They might go a little bit more defensive than you normally would, just to make it more difficult to score runs. And then, if you take a wicket, then you're back onto the front foot again. So, and then you might have a situation when some guy's has been in for a long time, like Rao, like Root, where you might defend against him and attack against the other guy, which I think was very much what was happening yesterday. I think they've just not watched the scoreboard, just bat, play the ball on its merits, stating the very obvious, but do not go too defensive. The runs and time are equally important. There isn't a situation where they aren't equally important, because the opposition will always look at the scoreboard and think, first thing is to clear the deficit, which isn't that many, and then get it to the credit column, and then absorb the first launches of the England attack, which they will see if we can make a bit more inroads into the openers than we've done in the past. Then we are opening up talented players, but not in the best of form. So
it's going to be great. It's going to be enthralling. Any match at Lords is enthralling. This is yet again a very interesting match. I guess you would imagine that we will see something quite serious from Pujara, Kohli and Rahane. They understand the importance not only of their own individual efforts, but as a team.
They're world-class players, Norman. But one thing's for sure, Rishabh Pant will not bat any differently than he breaks up. That's just in his DNA, really. So
it's a breath of fresh air, really.
No, it is, yeah. And if he tries to do anything different, that would be really sad. He needs to, if he gets in, to launch a counter attack that will get all the fans excited or whatever. I think it's going to be an enthralling. It's been enthralling up to the point it's being back and forth and whatever, and I don't see these 2 days being any different.
No. This young man here, Sanket Jay, says Virat Kohli century is coming the next 5 or 6 hours. I'm really excited to see what you'll say, Norman. I hope you're right. It would be exciting for cricket to watch a counter attack by Kohli by way of a century. And it is true. And this comment is true. Independence Day will emotionally boost India. You would think so.
Yeah.
That's pretty significant.
I think that if once Kohli gets, and it's again stating the obvious, that the players who are more successful certainly are giving the impression they know where their off stump is. So I think for Kohli particularly Lords is a very interesting wicket to bat on because of the slope. You can get drawn into playing at balls that are quite wide. And the best bowlers, for instance, from the pavilion end, if Glenn Mcgraw could carry that wicket around, if you look at his records, not only for Australia, but when he played for Middlesex for a year, he just bowled people out for fun. Because the slope allows you a little bit more width outside the off stump to the right-hander. And they know that if the ball will come down the slope, so you get drawn into playing things that might be a little bit wider. And conversely, the other way around, the slope coming from the nursery end, that's a bit more of a challenge, I think, for the bowler, and not trying to get too greedy by setting the ball off too straight. It'll be a game of patience, who's going to crack first. So the ability of the 3 of them to leave the ball, as opposed to Rahane's first shot on day 1 when he tried to hit a wide for 4. It'd be interesting to see how they. But I think players in form, leaving the ball really well is nearly as good as hitting it virtually. So
can you explain the slope a bit more to me? You've just said the slope from the nursery end.
Well, the ground itself, if I can remember rightly, falls 9 feet from the grandstand down to the bottom end. So though the wicket
diagonally,
no, straight across.
Right.
So it's nine feet lower down the bottom end of the ground. Obviously, the square is as flat as it can be, but there tends to be a little bit of a tilt. A tilt really caused by the when you're running in more than anything else, and you're running in from the bottom. Ironically, not that I had any sort of record playing at Lords, I preferred to bowl from the pavilion end, which wouldn't be the end you bowl left arm spin from, because I felt more balanced at the crease. Whereas bowling from the other end, you felt as if you're falling off the edge of a cliff, or you were continually trying to fight the slope a little bit, even though that was in your advantage. So
that explains why a man like Root loves hitting the ball through the third man region when batting from the pavilion end.
Yeah. Well, Raoul did the same. You just let the pace of the ball take it down in that direction. Whereas you wouldn't probably doing the same shot from if you're batting from the nursery end. But it there are just that somebody like Mcgraw, who was so accurate in terms of the line he bowled, you could get people playing at slightly wider deliveries because they thought the ball was always coming back into them, whereas actually he was just bowling a straight ball. So his natural ball from the pavilion would make the ball nip back into the right-handed batsman. So the alternative.
So he bowled from the pavilion end or the nursery end? What was his traditional?
Pavilion end. If you look at the wickets he took in 2005, they were all from the pavilion end.
Incredible. I mean, the way that Ishant Sharma bowled yesterday, he bowled pretty well. I thought didn't have a lot of luck though, but he bowled pretty well.
As I said to you before, I thought he looked a bit rusty, and I was really confident he would come back well yesterday. His natural length is just a little bit short for somebody of Root's quality. Root would have found it easy to leave him if he needed to leave him. So that's where Bumrah is so effective, because he actually does pitch the ball up a bit farther than the norm. And does massive things with it. So, but I do take Sid's point about his overall fitness, and he again will have to be managed as Jimmy Anderson will be. But Jimmy Anderson is basically defying medical history as we speak, because he just enjoys the game, and it appears to be going from strength to strength, which is remarkable.
There's a lot of discussion if at the current run rate, which has been hovering around 3 per over from both teams, after 90 overs, that would see India roughly 270, which would put them about as close as you can get to 250 in front, if that is the case.
Yeah, but you still need some more beyond that. You wouldn't set somebody to 250. But I think this is the beauty of certain match situations where I've always, again, this is only my view, it's not to say it's right, is that I quite like when you're getting to the third and fourth innings that the innings end naturally. So, if somebody gets bowled out on the last day, having to set the opposition, which leaves the opposition to get 250, 260, you would never declare on that, but actually it sets up a really exciting game, and actually ends up the bowling side has a bit more time than they would normally have to. So all results then are possible. So in this situation,
so do you think? I know we can talk about this more tomorrow if you join us. A victory is certainly plausible here, isn't it? Still,
it certainly is. As it stands now, it's probably more plausible for England, because the time equation would probably lend itself to being not as much time that India need to bowl England out, depending on if they intend to, a bit like the test match against New Zealand. And I can understand why at the beginning of the summer that no New Zealand wanted to force the issue, and they could force the issue because they were 1-0 up. Well, no, they weren't 1-0 up. It was the first test match, wasn't it? So I just think that the equations will be that India will probably not have enough time unless it's forced upon them by being bowled out. So I don't see them declaring. Test match declarations don't happen that give both sides a chance. You know, the declaring side wants to not add more pressure to their bowling side, but it's a difficult equation. You need to, you know, what the best declarations that people do are based on how much time do I need to bowl the opposition out, not how many runs I've got. So that would be the equation in the dressing. But this is only the second of a long series, so we shall see what happens. What was that?
So there is a comment here which I think is interesting. One of the Sanjita Paul is saying he predicts India will be all out for 190. Now, surprisingly, Sanjita Paul, despite being Indian, actually lives in England, and he's saying that because he's British. So he's a British fan. He wants India to be all out for 100, or he doesn't want. He says that India will be all out for 190.
It's a good job the girls on this phone call. They would somewhat challenge that view, wouldn't they?
So, they certainly would. Actually, Aparna's been notably absent the last few days. I don't think she's very well because she put together a fantastic. I put together a interview with Steve Waugh. Aparna did her own one on the same day, and she put her own music to it and put a few more bits and pieces to it. It's a great interview.
Right.
I'll send you links to both of them.
You get to see Steve Waugh quite a lot then.
Yeah. Well, he lives in Cronulla. He's in Sydney, and he's a lovely bloke, and you know we've got a relationship with him now.
Give him my best when you see him.
I will, David. I will.
He has.
I'm trying to get him onto the show, but
he never tormented my time as chairman selectors. So.
Really,
but he did actually play for Somerset for a bit, and then obviously he and I played against each other, and we had quite a funny incident whereby. And I'm sure this is not allowed, but we desperately needed. We had a fair chance of winning the championship, and we were playing on pitches at Bristol that just didn't do a lot. So we were just playing draw after draw after draw. So we came up with this really weird plan of playing between two used wickets. So in essence, it was a fresh wicket, but we didn't bother to cut too much grass off it. The runoffs from the various wickets would have meant there was a bit of rough for the spin bowlers, so it didn't look very good. And I can remember Steve Waugh I was going towards the middle, he was coming off. He was shaking his head and saying, "How am I expected to get runs on that? That is not like the wickets in Australia, so don't worry, it won't play." And actually, it was absolutely didn't do anything at all. Didn't seam, didn't uneven bounce, so we were back to where we were before. But he was seriously worried. But he's an
incredibly nice bloke.
His bravery is just extraordinary. I can remember him running when he did his calf had a calf strain, and he couldn't play at Headingley. I think that's the Test match where Mark Butcher scored 100 to win. Because it was raining. Australia were in control of the game, they declared, which was fantastic. And I can remember arriving in the ground. As I drove in, Marcus Destrotic got a ball from Jason Gillette. We just hit him full on the helmet from a length. I thought, well, this isn't going to last very long. And just Mark Butcher played an innings that was not one in a lifetime because he was a really good player, but against an attack like that was something remarkable. But I can remember looking at the back of the pavilion at Headingley to the rugby ground, and he was hobbling around, trying to, sort of get his calf right. And he wasn't fit when he played at the Oval, but he still got 100. That's the one where he sort of dived into the crease on his 100th
yes.
run. Just
a
remarkable player.
Oh, he has to go down as one of the he's statistically the most successful captain ever, percentage-wise.
Right.
So that's a pretty impressive stat.
Well, if you have an attack like he had, then he would. So if Mark Taylor's not above that, then?
Sorry?
Mark Taylor is not above that.
No. No, Steve Waugh is... I went through this recently because I was checking up on... Virat Kohli's percentages, and Virat Kohli, after I think it's his 63rd Test as captain, and he has a 59% winning ratio, which is right up there. But Steve Waugh is well over 60. Graham Smith was in that region as well, and currently Williamson has a percentage as well around that. But no one else has got near that. And
Right.
Mark Taylor's not. Mark Taylor, I'm not sure. I'm going to guess and say it's 40-odd%. It's high, but it's not as high.
Surprised by that.
Well, Steve Waugh has literally the best as far as depending on how he matches and what have you. He's literally the best. Borders,
well,
pretty.
He definitely Norman led by example. He was.
But it's an interesting.
And he shaped his game. You know, there are not many people who would survive the international game. I'm not saying. Well, you do actually. It's a bit of a badge of honour to be able to hook the short ball. He chose not to, and he just found a method of surviving.
Exactly.
Which was remarkable, really. So,
I mean, he is quite an incredible person. He's a very He's a very clear-minded fellow. He has a very austerely thought process. He doesn't mince words. He's got one way and one way only, and it generally worked, didn't it?
He did actually. The last time I saw him from a distance, when his son was playing for Australia under-19s. So I don't know how his career has gone because that's a couple of years ago. But
well, he was a part of the under-19 team, of course, as you said. He played for Australia, and he's played a fair bit of fairly high-level cricket. I think he's been a few Australia, not A sides, but sort of invitational 11 Australian sides against touring teams. He hasn't quite gone on with it, to be honest with you. He's playing great cricket. I think he's playing at pretty high level, but he hasn't quite gone on with it.
Does he play for New South Wales, Norman, or not?
He hasn't been in the side, as far as I'm aware, in the actual playing 11. No, I think he's been in the squads, but he hasn't been in the playing 11. Whereas someone like Jason Sanger, who was the captain of the under-19s with him, has gone and played at a very consistent level. So
is there? Because I know Australia had a interesting. Well, it's their choice in terms of whether they thought under-19 cricket was worthwhile or whatever, and they've now embraced it to a degree. But even when they were embracing it, I just didn't seem to, which is more than likely, I just didn't see a massive transfer of under-19 cricket to be playing for Australia.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, really,
because if you look at all the England team, they virtually to a man have all played under-19 cricket.
But isn't that intriguing? Why is that not the case in Australia? Mitchell Marsh was the captain of the under-19s when he played. He went on with it, but not nearly as successfully as perhaps he could have. Jason Sanger's under-19 captain. You've also got Pukovsky's been in that mix as well. I don't know whether Cameron Green was in that mix, but it is interesting. Not all, I would say, no more than a handful out of an under-19 team.
My view is that I think that outside professional cricket in the UK, the level of cricket in terms of club cricket is quite poor. So, but I think the Australians have really proven that actually, and it is a system whereby you could be playing for Australia and you could still be playing great cricket. So you could actually be turning up on a Saturday and you'll be side by side in the dressing room with an active Australian Test match cricketer. So the quality of grade cricket is much, much higher than whatever the equivalent would be in the UK. So
it's true.
Maybe they think that's the right breeding ground to be involved. So,
well, Bukowski, is a leg spinner who's played a bit of the short form of the game, but he hasn't got he's orange-headed. I've forgotten his name now. He's got a.
Who's the guy who got hit on the head and couldn't be selected through concussion protocol because he was playing right at the beginning? He got quite a lot of runs in great cricket. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks well at this point in time. He came back last summer and then injured his shoulder, was out for the rest of the season. You would imagine that he would be in the mix for the Australian side coming up to this Ashes series and opening with Warner, and then the likes of obviously Labuschagne and Steve Smith are there as well. But then the middle order
Harris is open really well in the UK. Norman,
what's that?
Harris has done really well in the UK.
And Marcus Harris, yeah. He was in that. Well. He was in that squad as well. He's been in and around the team, but he didn't. I think he had an opportunity. He didn't do that well in one of the Test matches, and he's sort of on the outer again. But Curtis Patterson, I would say would be back in the mix because captaining New South Wales over last summer. And also, I would hope to see Kawaja return because he's been playing well for Queensland and captained the Queensland side to win the Sheffield Shield last year. So you would hope that they give him.
Well, I think that both sides have the same challenge. Who's going to bat in the first three? And give some sort of stability to the innings. So
no doubt, a lot of issues, and the fact is Australia haven't played a Test match since the Gabba Test match in January.
I know.
It's August now, and they're not going to play anything. They're going to play very little domestic cricket. They're going to go to the IPL and then to the World Cup T20. Then they're going to go straight into a Test match without any grade cricket against Afghanistan.
And have the same process. The referee's going to come in and say, "This is a red ball, chaps. This is what you're actually going to be playing with." So,
I mean, that's got to be to the advantage of England because after this series against India, who do they play? Do they play someone before they go to the Ashes?
They were going to go to Bangladesh, which now is not going to take place because the IPL is in that slot.
Right.
My understanding is that I don't think there's too many gaps between the IPL and the T20. Am I right in thinking that?
No, there's hardly any.
Because they were thinking about going to Pakistan, I think.
There's a handful of days. There's like literally a handful of less than a week between the IPL and the T20 World Cup in UAE. It's almost butts up against each other. So after this 5-test series, it's gone. It's straight to the IPL, straight to the World Cup, and then that'll take up, well into October, and that would mean to get to Australia to play in November, you can't really time anything else, you would imagine.
Wouldn't have thought so, but I have a niggling suspicion, but I'll find that out before the next time we speak, and we'll go from there. Norman, I'm going to have to peel off at this stage.
All right, thank you. You've been here for a while, so thank you very much, David. I appreciate that. We'll see whether you've got time, not so much tonight with the 4th birthday happening, but perhaps tomorrow it will be great to see. We may have a very interesting discussion.
Sorry, you need to go to bed, don't you, this time of day, or not?
No, it's 7:23 p.m. It's still quite a good time of the day, actually.
All right, fine. All right. Well, have a good evening, and I'll.
All right, thanks, David.
See you later.
Thanks again for being on. I've sent you some links too. Links.
Thanks.
Thanks, David. All right, so that was David Graveney there for well over an hour. We had a great discussion, as you can see. We're about half an hour before the Test match starts. So, this message was a message sent to me that was unsent. Who would send that? It's interesting. There certainly is a. We need to be sure that we actually have everything going the right manner for India and England, because this is a crying shame to see no result. We all want to see a result in this match for sure. This has to be. What do you do about India today's batting? Aparajit Sharma. Thank you for joining us, Aparajit Sharma. I hope you can subscribe if you haven't done so already. It would be really appreciated. I do appreciate if when you come to the channel that you subscribe now. I was just going to say, I'll have a look at a situation here that we're looking at. It is interesting where Mara's fitness here. Yeah, the reality is that India have all to play for in this situation. Have I heard of Daniel Alexander and the hate he spreads? Thoughts on how to deal with that? Ignore people. Ignore people that cause problems. Always ignore. Ignore is the best approach to anything you get. It is raining in Lords? I don't think it is, as far as I'm aware. I haven't seen any evidence of it raining. So let's just see what the story is as far as rain is concerned. I don't think there is any rain as far as I'm aware. The broadcast should start very soon. It looks like a lot of the Indian public have turned off the match a bit because they're a bit concerned about the situation with the score, which I can appreciate. But let's have a look. What's live TV showing?
Falling out of it. They've proven with the start of the season.
I'm just getting a hold of the actual series. Let's have a look here.
Wise attitude at the moment. It was quite special in that respect.
They're talking to Joe Root currently, and Joe Root's on Sky Sports and on Fox Sports here in Australia, talking about the 391 that they have scored and the so-called 27-run lead on day forward. He seems very, very content, as he would as a captain of this team that's been fighting very hard for the way through after having been behind on the first test. The reality is that, Joe Root, again, scored 9,000 test runs. He's second now only to Alistair Cook in the run list for England. He's 16th in the overall list. Cook is 5th. So he's 16th now, Root. He's done very well, and they continue to climb and reach the top 10 of batters ever, which is quite an achievement. Let's be honest, that's a magnificent achievement. I'm not sure what happened to Adam Hollyoak. Adam Hollyoak was supposed to join, he hasn't. The reality is that we've got another half an hour before the match starts. It looks like we've gone a bit quiet with the involvement of the game. I get that. I mean, it's been a fairly long series. You can't watch heavily every day, and of course, India are batting today. There should be a fair bit of interest though, because India's batting. It's a big day when India bat, and especially it's Independence Day. It's happy birthday, Independence Day, 75th anniversary, I believe it is. So let's have a look. I am from India, Deepak Verma. Okay. Does Lord's pitch is useful for spinners? Well, so far we've seen very little spin, but Mohammad Ali was used a reasonable amount. Jadeja, in fact, was also on. They both haven't been very penetrative. Both have been pretty good, but not taking a lot of wickets. Mark Wood will take 5 for today. All Turkish dramas saying that Mark Wood will have a big day at 5 wickets. I think James Anderson's the bigger threat. Mark Wood, I think, is more suited to England batters, so I think that's probably the more of the situation there, so I suppose. Virat, the run machine, and Joe, not be fantastic batting yesterday, but today it's a Virat show. Let's hope it is Chow and Anil. I really would like to see Kohli take charge and bat quickly and briskly and get a lead of 250 plus, and then maybe even if they're really well up to 300, and then allow for India to be able to set a very attacking field and have England bat the last day. Because England could well shut up shop. The test match recently that England played against New Zealand, they had a chance to win the match. Williamson set the match up to be able to be a potential victory to either side, challenging the England batters, and they shut up shop. Sibley just blocked and got 60, I think it was. It wasn't impressive, and they had a draw, which was terrible. So if England decided to apply their batting in the last day for a draw, it could come unstuck. And I hope there won't be a collapse of any batting, because that'll be really disastrous for India. But if it will, they may then have to see some changes. But yeah, I hope not. And they need to get Ashwin for the next test. I think that may well be the case. He probably would have been very useful this test. He would have been useful. You're right. What is the average second innings score at Lords? It's a good question. It's not that high. It's usually pretty low, but it'll be around the 250 mark. Root goes for a duck. This should be the anthem of Indians. Yeah, that would be if he gets that. If he had got out for a duck in the first innings, India would have led by well over 100, wouldn't they? So that's the issue that we're facing here. We've got a situation where they're not chasing 100; they're actually behind by 27. That's not what you want to see. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see that at all. It'd be quite disastrous, wouldn't it? So, yes. Well, at this stage of the match, with half an hour to go before play starts, England will be relatively happy with their situation. They've fought back well in this match. It's more heading towards a draw. Second, England they win, and only third and last option for India wins provide Rohit and Punch to score as they are that once scores at brisk pace. Let's see. So you're saying that England will win the third test, and therefore they'll be one up after 3 tests. It's quite a frustrating result for Sumant Shastri. Let's hope it's not a draw. Third innings is pretty good for batters, but then England in the third innings in the first test scored over 300, remember? And then Root again, and that allowed India to go on the bat, but with only a day to spare, and it rained, and they drew. So
that third innings was crucial in the first match, and it actually went in the favour of it was in England's favour because they played well that day, didn't they? So yeah, it's an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see what actually happens there. So let's have a look what we've got here. Having all sorts of problems with my iPad is not working well. But guys, if you're here online, please provide me with some subscribership. Quick X player to watch out for the innings, second innings. Always Rahul and Rohit Sharma the way they open the batting. But again, Pujara, Kohli, Rahane have got a lot of responsibility, and allowing them punt to go for it towards them with Jadeja will be exciting. Pitch is much more friendly than the first test. You would argue. Weather is as well. A little variable bounce. So yeah, 250 maybe. Which team are you supporting? I'm not supporting a side as such, but I like to see India win. Yes, I'm all for India. Will some come to Lords to see Gunlock the two? Yeah, you'd hope that you get to see. It was practically a full crowd so far for the entire 3 matches that have occurred. This is the 4th day, so yeah, there's a good chance that it will be full crowd. Weather looks good. Weather forecast is good. In fact, weather forecast is also good for tomorrow. So there's no issue with the. I'm just trying to work out what. Okay, so they're having a long chat to Joe Root after he's 180 not out. Put that in perspective. 180 not out is significant out of the 391. So Joe Root. Okay, let's look at the leading run scores for England. Alistair Cook's got 12,472, followed by Root on 9,000. Graham Gooch comes next. Alex Stewart, David Gower, Kevin Peterson, Jeffrey Boycott, Michael Atherton, Ian Bell, and Colin Cowdrey. And out of those, only one batsman has got a batting average of 50, and that's Joe Root. There may be clouds around, but it'll be a good day. What do you think of Siraj's bowling strategy to Root, of darting the ball into his pads? Didn't work, did it? He handled it quite easily. Yeah, it was a superb performance by Joe Root. It was an absolutely amazing performance. You've got to take a hat off to him. He played exceptionally well. Now, we're there at the ground. They've got David Lloyd, Dinesh Karthik, and Ian there. I've covered his last time. They're talking about the match, looking at the weather. The crowd's starting to build. It's not overly full, but their players are all out there on the field. Looks not exactly bright sunshine. Looks a little bit gloomy, but reasonable conditions enough. For another captain, Root would have got 50, let alone 800. This bowling lineup of India is seriously good. It is seriously good. And the fact that Root can actually switch off and bat well as captain is quite magnificent. Shows his kind of an analytical bowler can accommodate tactics. Yeah, he does. How many more chances do you think India will give Rahane and Pujara with their poor record in centre countries? Well, I'm always of the opinion that they'll play the whole series. That's my thoughts. That's what I think. And I don't think they're going to be dropped necessarily that quickly. If India lose this match, which you'd hope they won't, they'll continue on to the third match. If India lose this match, you may see pressure to drop one of them and allow Agarwal or Vihari to go into their places. It'll be interesting to see what happens because Rahul's not going anywhere. He's staying in their batting lineup without any doubt. Let's have a look here. So it is Happy Independence Day today. It was 1947. Was it Independence, but birthday and Independence Day 1 year apart? I think there's something about that. I've got some very good comments here from people, which I appreciate. Rahane and Pujara both. Rahane scored 6,000 as well. Yeah, Rahane scored, I think, 4,000 odd. Pujara 6,000 plus. Great performances, really, in the overall career aspect. It is. Blue Cloud have already reached Lords. Yeah, it has, but John, it certainly has. Agarwal replaces Pujara. If Pujara don't score, draw or loss. We'll see. Let's hope that. Okay, highest averages as an opener is interesting. Rohit Sharma in the minimum of 20 tests has got a batting average of 61.25. followed by Herbert Sutcliffe, Bruce Mitchell, Leonard Hutton, Jack Hobbs, Bob Simpson, Bill Ponson. Robert Sharma's right up there with batting averages at well over 60 as opening batter. He shouldn't be knocking, though. He's got a lot of centuries of late. I can't understand why Sharma doesn't get more wickets than he actually ends up with. He's got 190 test wickets, has Sharma after 53 tests, so he's doing okay. I'm not going to say, Crick actually asked me to say Bharat Mata. I'm not going to say it. I don't know what that actually, I don't know what that fully means. I'm not sure whether it's something I should be saying. Crick tell me I don't want to say which is not right. Bumrah bowled too wayward with so many no balls, which helped him. That was certainly a large number of no balls. It's a bit hard to work out, that one. Sky replaces Rahane at 5 in the next test. I don't know whether Sky's ahead of Puranjay Sachdeva. I don't think Sky is ahead of Vihari or Agarwal. I think one of those two will be the one to go in front of them. We're talking now to Johnny Bessard, having spoken to Root. They should give way to the youngsters. They're going to do that. They are going to do that. It'll happen. And it'll happen in large force. But whether it's now, it's another thing. We're out in the middle. There's certainly there's a full cover of cloud in the sky. Mayank is a strange one because he has not taken his chance, but he's a very good player. He'll still get his goal. Sharmi bowls 3 balls at leg. He bowled pretty ordinarily yesterday. I don't see Ajinkya redeeming himself today, but Vihari has got some chances. Let's hope both do. Vihari should be in before Sky. I agree. Vihari has good defence. I think Vihari will probably be the one to come in next, along with Agarwal. Agarwal was already in the sides, but Rahul has jumped on that chance, hasn't he? He certainly has. He certainly has made hay for that. So let's have a look here. Yeah, there is definitely some concern. The weather it looks like a full cloud of colour, so it's overcast, which will suit the bowling, unfortunately. But rain doesn't look like there's a fair degree of darkness to the clouds. We may see some rain today. We may. Can both Vihari and Sky both be brought into place? They could be, but I don't think they'd be. Vihari and Agarwal will go in first. Does Virat Kohli have some sort of technical issue playing? No, he needs to leave the ball alone. He plays to front foot. He just needs to let the ball go, which he did a lot of that. Actually, Sky will be deployed in the third test. I don't know whether Sky's going to jump in that quickly. Does Virat Kohli have some sort of no? Add to acid test for 3, 4, 5. That's at least 100 between them. I agree. Virat can even bat at 3 and Sky at 5 in coming future, not now. Yeah, I think Vihari's worthy of a number 3, and Agarwal as well. You may even see Agarwal come in the future, Vihari at first shot and put Rahul further down, or some mixture above that. That's what we're likely to see. The viewership's just not quite there today, is it? I haven't got as many viewers as we normally have. It's building, but we'll get there. All right. India kind of exposed without Sundar. He saved India in 2 test matches. People forgot about completely India middle order. They've not performed well past him. Look, you're right. I mean, he and Thakur both batted well, and that's in the Gabba. They had no choice. They were in the side. They were picked to play. Virat has lost his place in the pecking order because he was terrible in the county championship. I don't think that's necessarily the case. He didn't play that well in the county championship. Yeah, I'll have to give you that. He was a little bit ordinary in that. So, all right. Whether Virat's lost his place is another thing. I don't know where people are today. It is independent. Happy birthday, happy Independence Day. There's probably a lot of people celebrating out there, having personal family events. So that's understandable. Very understandable. Yeah, we've only got some 20 minutes before play starts, and both Rahul will go up with Sharma. Sharma's batting average is over 60. The best of, not to be sneezed at is Sharma. Very, big importance to playing these two opening batters, I can assure you. Very large amount of importance on their opening batters. Happy Independence Day, Shakira, for drawing less, okay. Amish, it can't be the reason. You may be right. Draw most likely outcome. Not necessarily. There's still enough time for a victory. All India replacements is not going to win for India. They are not seriously impact players. Impact players scores runs 4 per over. Root Sehwag. Yeah, that's a fair point. So, but you are then mentioning you think Sky should jump ahead of Vihari and Agarwal. Is that what you're saying? Be interesting to see what they do. India loses the match, there may be changes. India don't lose the match, we're going to see these players playing for longer. So I don't know whether it's that conclusive that we're going to have, any changes, really. Root and Sehwag are totally different kind of players. There they are. We would say Sehwag's more aggressive and was an amazing player. Great to watch, wasn't he? Like even Matthew Hayden was as well. Very similar in terms of their. So they're actually now up in the interview spot above the old dressing room. We've got Michael Atherton with Andrew Strauss, and they've got a guest there. I don't know who it is. We'll find out who it is very shortly. You can see in the background the JP Morgan. In fact, no, it's actually Lawrence Booth from the Daily Mirror. Editor. Lawrence Booth is the guest. I know Lawrence personally, actually. Lawrence Booth is on. He's the editor at Daily Mail. He's also an editor at Wisdom. He's a great guy, very knowledgeable, married to, I think, an Indian lady, actually. And, he's there with Andrew Strauss and Michael Atherton. They're both commentating away there. So, yeah, Lawrence Booth is the editor of Wisdom. I know him personally. Okay. India should bat 3 sessions and post maybe 250 and allow England to chase them through. Yeah, they're going to need to put that well into it tomorrow, aren't they? Which doesn't leave much time. In my opinion, considering the one was hardest to bat, India's slightly ahead at the moment, but of course everything depends on Australia. Yeah, I would agree with it. Pretty much even Stevens. Will England drop Hamid in the next test? No, I don't think. I think that they've put him in there for at least a couple of tests at the very least, even though he got out first ball. I don't think they're going to take him out that quickly. In all fairness, he'll need at least 2 test matches, hopefully more, because he apparently is the goods. There's that incident yesterday about the corks on the ground. Seems to be being brushed under the carpet somewhat. Has batting become easier compared to today, one, or is there still something for the bowlers? I think it has become a bit easier. All yesterday was a very sunny day, very clear day. But as you say, in England, don't look down, look up. And it's looking overcast, which would turn an overcast day, which is the day that India are batting. What about punt at 5 today? Only if they've got a good start to their innings or they put him in earlier, because they don't need to do that. India needs a big partnership. They want to bat whole day. Yeah, they will need some. They need to start with a great opening partnership. So that's their biggest moment of advantage. Let's be honest. That's their biggest moment. Will Ollie Pope be back on the next test? Well, he had the opportunity to play this test, and they kept Bairstow and they put in Moeen Ali. I don't think so. Most interesting aspect is if the pitch will start breaking up by 3rd session, and that would mean that India will have a chance tomorrow. Yes, they will, but they haven't got Ashwin there, unfortunately. He'll lose this match and have a performance similar to the first innings. What chance do you expect to see in the side? Ashwin, Sky, Vihari. Ashwin will certainly be one. You'd have to go Mayank and Vihari ahead of Sky. I don't know whether Sky would jump over the top of him. Both openers gets out very early. It's a pattern. We write fiction and stories and glorify players based on first innings. I like players like Sanger, who was second innings player, who played under pressure. Okay, we'll see how we go. Big test for Indian batters today. Very, very big test. It's going to be there in sort of 15 minutes before we get a start. Not far away at all, guys. Ashes is close to you. Feeling intimidated by this England side? No, I don't feel intimidated by them at all, to be honest with you. Root, certainly Root, but in the bowling lineups, Shakib Mahmood, I think he will be good. What would be nice if India had one today, but for that, England needs to bowl out India, and India needs to bowl out England before the target today itself. it is heading a little bit towards a draw, but we just don't know. India might fall apart today, and England might win easily, or India may not play well and put pressure on England. Really, today's going to be a big test for India. For sure, India's under a lot of pressure. They've been leading all the way through the series. A lead of 250 can do. Yeah, David Gum, I think you're right. Arjun Shankar now, who has an edge in this series? Well, India had the edge all the way along. It's only now that England's starting to come back, and I'd expect them to come back. It was important India won one of the first two tests. They've missed out the first because of the weather. They've missed out on a good start here, and they're playing not as well. How bad is the pitch play? They play? It won't be as bad as some of the Indian pitches, I can assure you. That's for sure. Cloud cricket. So cloud cricket, Arjun Shankar Nair, please make sure you subscribe. Everyone online, I want you to subscribe. I'm going to be looking out for your names. Rahane is vice captain with high scores the World Test Championship, so can't be dropped now, but Bajaj can maybe replaced by Saurav Yadav. Okay. Van Robert, I don't disagree with you, but yeah, there's people talking that Rahane's more in danger. Rahane and Bajaj the last chance there. I don't know whether it's that conclusive. My inner Nostradamus says India will choke and possession starts. India's a team never played well under pressure, under any except for Rahane. We'll wait and see. Wait and see. Just looking up the. Yeah, we've got same viewers. Okay. I've been subscribed for a while now, mate. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm just asking. I'm already subscribed on. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just asking. It's just my job to ask. Okay. That's okay, Clay. That's all right. I'm sorry about that. The live ones are a bit long, aren't they? They take a certain thing. I put up a video yesterday, which was good. Thanks, Cloud. I appreciate that, mate. I really do. It's important for me, and I want this to be like a family, a community. You tell me what you want, and I'll supply it. I'll try and get the interviews that we want. Just had David Graveney. Now, David Graveney, who was on earlier, the last half an hour or so, he was the man who gave the first cap to James Anderson, as we found Anthony Mcgraw, back in 2003 at Lords. So he has a very strong connection to these players, immense connection to these players. Quite impressive indeed. So Lawrence Booth is on there, Lawrence. You love the public interview. So do I. I'll do more of those, guys, don't I? You also added me as a member. So good work. I know you have. You're a great guy. I'm very impressed by that Amaresh Singh. Demon Game has not played Ashwin. Yes, it has. Absolutely. Humans here. Hello, humans. Dravid Wise is setting up in Namibia, I heard. David Weiss. Oh, yes, David Wise, sorry. David Weiss is setting up in Namibia. Well, Namibia, there's so many countries which are now heading into, there's players going all over the world, which is exciting. Maybe get Vikrant on your channel to just talk about cricket. It's just a treat listening to both of you together. Thank you. You saw our previous interview. We had a great interview. It was a lot of fun. Very busy man, though, but I'm going to, obviously, he's welcome all the time. I sent him the links, so when he's available, he'll come on. Don't worry. It's a bit of a frustrating day at the moment. So looking at about 10 minutes away from the start of play. Again, Lawrence Booth is on just now. Lawrence Booth is on. Lawrence Booth is on there. You can see Lawrence Booth talking there. Lawrence Booth is currently on Sky. Know him very well. He's talking to Andrew Strauss and the other commentator there. They're on the top of the members pavilion at Lords, looking towards the JP Morgan press box, and the new stands are above them. I think it's the Bill Edridge and Dennis Compton stands. Do I know Bharat Sundararajan? Of course I do. I was on his Twitter talk the other day. He has a live Twitter talk. I was with Bharat, going very well. Does that one of the Indian pacers get dropped for a rotation in the upcoming test? Well, we're more concerned with the batters than the others. Probably will. Umesh Yadav is there. Will they go for a draw or bet out time? India will go for a win. Whereas Richards, haven't seen him for a while. Yeah, he's got his own channel there in Antigua. He does a local channel now. He's quite taken by that, but he'll be back on, don't worry. You reckon ECB's got in cloud seeding technology? Quite. They want to see what we're up to. What's our marketing site wise? Is that what you think? Who knows? Who knows? So don't forget, people can't be on 12, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because it'd be too much. So I'm going to understand people get heavily involved and they leave. They have their time. It's really up to them. I'm not putting pressure on them. We're only 8 or 9 minutes away from the start of play. I'm not seeing any evidence of any delay to the start. The pitches, I can see the pitches uncovered. Looks like it's lining the marking the lines. It looks like this play's going to happen on time. Yeah, Chris Cairns, having a father like Lance Cairns, having a successful career himself, everything to live for, did something rather fraudulent, got himself in a lot of trouble, match fixing, whatever it was, and then now he's got a physical ailment which looks pretty. He's on life support. It's a pretty sad story. Play starts in 5 minutes, correct? Yep. I think winning the match should be the attitude for both teams. That's when you have a great game. You do, but England love playing for draws. I tell you what, they could close up shop when they bat. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think they may have made a mistake not having the best player, best bowler, statistically in the side. Yep. Yeah, look at the pitches so far. England don't want to bring Indian bowlers into the game. It's bat versus bat series. No, I don't think the first test was a pretty good bowlers place. What's your favourite cricket memory? Personal cricket memory. I mean, I've been going back in history. Any test match at Lords is certainly something. The way that the Bradman era, of course, something. But my own personal time of watching many games at the SCG I watched, which I loved. Matches in India, Chinnaswamy Stadium, India versus Pakistan, Shoaib Akhtar bowling was quite incredible. Is it raining? No. No evidence of any rain there at all. No evidence of any rain, although it is overcast. Andrew Strauss, of course, is there in his bright red jacket based on the Ruth Strauss Foundation, which is, I think it's £800,000, which is a lot of money. A lot of money. 1.6 million Australian or thereabouts. It's right up there, I'll tell you. So Michael Atherton, captain England, Andrew Strauss, captain England, both were opening bats. Lawrence Booth, captain Wisdom. He didn't captain England. England have had better conditions to bat. They have day 3 in the first test. That was day 3. Day 4 in the first test was important. Day 3 here. I think it is a direct shootout of second innings. Yeah, it's like a 2-day match, really. I like the story of how you found all the Windies legends when you went there. You have great stories on. That's why I love you. Thank you very much. And that was a lot of fun. People watch that. It's a great video. Please post public interviews on World T20. I certainly will be. There'll be one on the IPL, second half of the IPL, and there will also on the World Test or the T20 World Cup. Absolutely. It's coming, guys. This we've been in lockdown. We haven't been able to do too much outside. Management high cert. And England isn't because they have to bat last and bat. Yeah, that's going to be difficult for England. But if India had the right bowlers, in the second innings shootout, no need to think. Yeah, that's true. It is. It's basically even Stevens score-wise. You're right. Climate change stops play. It's a rather heavy statement. So Mike Atherton reading the papers like I did. I've got the paper right here, guys. The Australian papers. That was the Sunday Telegraph. Sam Burgess, rugby league player, my beloved Rabbitohs. very little cricket in our Australian papers at the moment. Very little cricket. There we go. And I look what it says about sport. I don't think there's much about cricket on this. Let me have a look. No, we haven't got much about cricket at all. We've got mainly about rugby league, which is the sport that I do like in the winter. There's winter here in Australia. So, we've got lots of discussion about rugby league. Rugby's the big sport there. Also, there's any cricket here. There's some interesting discussion about rugby league here. I'm just having to take a photograph of this. I'll have a little look at this. Yes, it's going to be interesting. Well, at the moment, there's no looking for anything about. It's all about rugby league. All about rugby league. Sydney, Australia, we're talking about rugby league since our season. There's been no it's Sports Sunday. We're not seeing the evidence of anything. There's not a lot about any other sport as far as I can see. I was just checking, guys. Wait a sec. Yeah, no, so there's nothing about cricket in there, unfortunately. India scored 270 plus and they are in for a win. Very good chance. If India starts well, even then you would never when the batting line can collapse, possibly. Any thoughts on merchandising sales? Well, yeah, it's been a little bit slow, guys, but you can see I've got the caps, the jackets, the shirts below. I've got the shirts below here. I'll just open that for you. You can see I've got it off there now. Got the shirts below there. Okay, there, we've got there, no, there, I shouldn't say there, and there, and there's cups and there's stuff behind me. It's all right, it's going on. It'll get more prominent as we go along. Let's have a look here. Yeah, there's a lot of conjecture about lockdowns in Australia. It's been really quite tough. So Anderson's out there warming up. Out comes Rahul. So the game's on as per program. Rahul's there with Sharma. Why did the crowd at 3 o'clock? It's still no foolish, stupid, very unfortunate. Even if India starts well, there is always a collapse around the corner with Dukes. True. Any thoughts on India's bowling in the 4th innings? Well, they haven't got an Ashwin there, have they? They should rely more heavily on Jadeja, for sure. So we're about to start the 4th day's play with none other than James Anderson bowling the first delivery, who he's taken in his 164 matches that he's played, 626 wickets, an average of 26.49, which is fantastic. Some 31 fifers and 2 tenfers. Quite spot on. Rahul facing up, so he'll be facing the first ball. He's bowling from the pavilion end as opposed to the nursery end. Yeah, it's really shameful. I was surprised that, but actually their football fans have history of bad behaviour, but we're still supposed to see it in the cricket field. I'll agree. India suffer from heroes worship, players get dragged on for long bars. Australia selectors show spine when it comes to dropping big names. My take on them. Abhishek Sharma, yeah, I think that keeping a stability of the side is also important. Here we go, the first ball of the day. Anderson bowls one to Rahul, and he's off the mark. First ball, hits the ball nicely down to backward square. And so he's bowling from the pavilion end, so he's bowling the slope heading down. So Robert Sharma's figures, he's played 41 test matches. He scored 2,810 runs, an average of 46.83, which is not bad. 13 50s and 7 centuries, the best of 212 against South Africa in 2019. it's pretty damn bloody good performance, really. 46 batting average. Is nothing to his 2,800 runs. Probably hasn't scored enough runs, had the chances with enough runs, but still pretty damn good. So Robert Sharma's now facing Anderson. And again, played virtually a similar shot that Rahul did, both getting off the mark. So there's no ducks from the openers. They both got singles. So that's a handsome start. It does look like the conditions are quite bright, quite light. So batting home and away, Rohit Sharma has got the best batting average away of 50.29. Then Vijay Hazara, and then Cameron Akmal, George Headley, Lawrence Rowe, Walcott, Warner, Clark, Shepherd, David Shepherd, who David Gravely talked about. I'm not sure what the stats all out, whether it was just openers. Ball certainly coming back into that. Himanshu Pal, hi bro, how are you? Bowling a distinct in cutting delivery. Not your typical Anderson. It usually goes away. Anyway, wait and see what happens here, guys. Anderson bowling. Balls are coming. Ooh, balls that we took off. Anderson's an amazing bowler. Really is. He's now the third highest wicket taker behind only Murali and Warren. So he's by far the best fast bowler. And he's only behind 708. So he's got that 80 odd to get past Warren. And then he goes into the second spot around Murali on 800. You would think that he won't get past this. So Rahul's scores so far, Trent 84-26 and now 129, and with this one not out. Very solid by Carroll. He certainly played himself into a permanent spot, and he's letting balls go beautifully that are coming into the bat. A very good ball, very well played, actually. Rahul's fantastic leaving the ball. I'm very impressed with his ability to leave a ball. It's very impressive. Ball's there, and it came in, and he still played down. He put his bat away from it. He was obviously watching what he was doing. Really darted back, and he got the bat out of the way. Fantastic application to that. Really was quite an impressive application. Yeah, it's a pretty sluggish day, but both opening batters are still there. I expect them to do well. I really do. I do expect them to do well. So we've gone a few minutes. As expected, Ollie Robinson's coming on for the nursery end. He's 27 years of age. He's not fresh off the playing list. He's been around for a fair while and nurtured by Jason Gillespie, apparently. He's been brought into play by Jason Gillespie. So far, he's taken 14 wickets in 3 matches. So that's relatively impressive. He played, I believe, the first match against New Zealand and couldn't play the second because of that ridiculous banning, and now he's played this as his third match against India. Both so far been bowling quite leg side. Are you all watching, guys? Have you got the ability to see vision on this, or you want me to commentate each ball, which I am? Because at the moment, Rohit Sharma was facing Ollie Robinson. They're still trailing by 25. They're none for 2, both batsmen on 1. Robinson's coming in bowling second delivery. On off stump, just dabbed away too well to point. Joe Root must be very content with his 180 not out, a batting average of over 50, 9,000 plus test runs, gone past Graham Gooch, is now the second most highest run scorer for his country, only behind Alistair Cook, who's 5th in the world. He's 16th, in fact, Root, out of all batsmen. He's 16th position. Root's, that's pretty damn good. With several years left in his career, he should go into the top 10. And okay, I will, Jay Sajib, I will commentate. So England have done very well. They're some 27 in front of the day's play, but India so far negotiated the bowling reasonably well the first couple of overs, with India none for two. Rahul and Rowett both with one each apiece. So still a deficit of some 25. And Robertson comes in the bowl from the nursery end, and ball that comes onto leg stump, just dabbed away by Sharma. He seems to be in no rush at all. He seems to be very consummate the way he's batting like a true opener. Let's be honest. He's 2,800 test runs and 7 centuries. Nothing to be sneezed at. Rahul obviously having scored a century in the first innings, has his name on the honour board there at Lords. Quite an impressive situation, but there's no doubt that Rohit Sharma, Pujara, Kohli, Rahane would all have their names on the scoreboard at Lords. It must be motivation, as well as the fact that it's Independence Day. Happy anniversary, everyone. Jai Hind. First ball, it's generally gone away from the bat. Well, that was fairly short and fairly predictable, to be honest. Robinson's a good bowler. Does bowl a good line length. That was a little bit short, but it did deviate away. And Sharma played the straight line, therefore missing it. Good bowling. England looked very buoyant in the field. Robertson coming into bowl again for the nursery end. Ball's been let go by Sharma beautifully. But the time the ball actually kept its line if anything came into the bat. So, yeah. I'm probably going to be going soon, guys. I'm not kidding. So losing to Bangladesh in T20 anomaly or a cause of real concern, a cause of absolute and utter concern. That was the last international match in a T20 format that Australia will play before the World Cup. Of course, they've been disappointing. They not only lost the series against there's Mike Brearley's with the previous major, I'm not sure, but there's definitely Mike Brearley. Yeah, I mean, this is the T20 Australian side have lost 4-1 to West Indies and 4-1 to Bangladesh. Effectively, 8 out of the last 10 is disgraceful. So Anderson's now on the bowl for the third over. Bowling to Rahul from the pavilion end as opposed to the nursery end. Pavilion end is where the members' pavilion is. The nursery end is actually where the JP Morgan Media Centre is, with the new stands of both Dennis Compton and Bill Edridge's stands, which has got an extended top of tier with a corporate level as well. Quite spiff, very much in that dome-like shape, like that sort of igloo or eye look. Yep, it certainly does. Australia's never been really that crash like T20, to be honest. Despite having a BBL competition to counter, they've been a little lacking. A little lack of cohesion in the side. They haven't played together. They got beaten by West Indies and Bangladesh 8 games. They lost out of 10. That's not a rehearsal for a T20 World Cup. It's overcast and it's relatively high level cloud though, guys. Relatively high level cloud. Anderson coming in the bowl. Oh, he's got the edge of. Oh, we got the edge of Rahul. Rahul plays soft hands, and it fell short of Rory Burns there. I think he was at second slip. But yeah, Rahul did actually get the edge. So look at that delivery. Bit of bounce, high up almost up to the bat spleen, and Rahul played a soft hand, took the right hand bat glove off the bat, and the ball went pretty much to ground ahead in front of what looks like Rory Burns at second. Again, the ball's been played on the ground to gully. Very interesting stage of the match. How good are the bunnies going, Norman? Come up, Murray. Cam Murray is a star. Yes, who's JD? Who's JD? Tell me who JD is. I love to know who JD is. Well, yeah, certainly are. I mean, for God's sake, Cameron Murray's a star. Shall I start with the whole Rabbitohs side? There's a ball hit Rahul on the pads, but there's no appeal there. So yeah, Cam Murray at lock. You've got what a spine. You've got Latrell Mitchell at fullback with really the way that Cody Walker's playing is amazing with Adam Reynolds. And then Cook and Hooker and Cam Murray at lock. You've got an incredible spine there, haven't you? The Bunnies are now equal second. Playing Penrith next week. If they beat Penrith, they'll go to a clear second. They'll be challenging first place and will be in the top three. They've made the top three. They'll not lose the top three position. There's no doubt about that. They'll be probably second or third, depending on how they go. It's great stuff. JD. You see the Rabbitohs cap, what they call it, beanie. Oh, it was a good delivery there from Robinson. Into the fourth over now. It held its line. That ball came in and then held its line. All right. How much more time do you want, guys? Because we can go anytime we want. It's now 13 minutes, nothing's happening, but very calm and very cautious batting for Sharma and Rahul. They're in complete command. They both got 129, 83 respectively for the first innings. They're in a great position. Smith averages 50, 16 test matches. Is he the best batsman right now? Not really, because he hasn't played for most of the year. We don't even know what his form is like. The best player at this moment is Root/Williamson. Williamson, the World Test Championship, Root in this test match, followed by the likes of Coley with Bubba Azam, and then, of course, Smith. Because Smith hasn't played, he can't really. It's what he's batting average. His form lately, we don't know. He hasn't played since January. Didn't play that well in that test series, which is his last effort. So this year he's virtually not played any test matches. Smith's not played any test matches, maybe 1-2 test matches this year, as opposed to Root, who scored over 1,000 runs and scored double centuries and 2 centuries on a trot here. Now you have to go in favour of Root with Williamson's effort too. Oh, it's very close to no ball. I'm not sure whether it is. You could technically say it was a no ball. None for 3. It must have been a no ball. Well, it's gone quite steadily. And they're letting the ball go, which is a good lesson. I hope Virat Kohli's watching this, and I hope Rahani's watching this. Pujara will be, I know, but the other two need to be watching this. There are no more questions, guys, and we're quite happy with the way things are. I might let you go, and I might have a session after the day's play, and we'll have a lot to talk about, I'm sure, with the onset of the situation. So you need to ask me questions if you want me to continue talking. Barber plays against weaker teams. That's not true. He'll play against anyone of his team. I'm sure he's not hiding himself from anything, that's for sure. Get a very steady start. Well, there we are. A very good shot from Rohit Sharma. He's put it through the cover region. He'll get at least 2, maybe 3. He steered it very nicely. Rahul and Rohit Sharma, they're quality, I'll tell you right now. He's played that well. Well, it is Independence Day, guys. So you would hope India put a good performance. Any technical issue for Virat needs to sort out? No, not really. Just not when the ball's outside. He needs to let the ball go and not to play at the ball. Let it go. He needs to learn it because he's too much of a front foot man. Wants to get back to ball. It's not necessarily a technical issue. It's a technique issue. A style issue. Style of batting. Also another 4 to row it there. Or was it Rahul? What's the look? He weighted it nicely there. Nice straight drive. Very nice shot from Rohit. Lovely straight drive. So what is the time right now in Australia? It's 8:17 p.m. So it's what in India it's somewhat 3:47 or thereabouts. So it's about 4.5 hours in front of you. Okay, so it's 8:17 p.m. It's a nice shot by Rohit Sharma. He's moved to 7. The score's none for 9. Okay, good. All right, so Anderson's still bowling. And he's batting quite solidly at the moment, none for 9 after some 4 overs. Anderson from the pavilion end, so the slope is turning the ball to make the ball come into the bat. But he's holding his line, which is a good sign. Interesting start here from India, don't you think? Hey, guys, are you watching? Are you listening? I'm happy. There's not much we can talk about more than the game. The game is actually on. India are none for 9. So they're now trailing by 18 runs. And everything looks pretty solid, so that's a good start. Anderson's a great bowler. Really, Anderson's a great bowler. But they're letting the ball go very, very well. Hope you're not losing out in sleep because of all the time zone difference. I am a little bit, to be honest with you. I am a little bit. I can't deny. Yeah, they're showing replays of Boomer gave Anderson a bit of a hard time yesterday. And all the short balls that dug it up, and then he got bowled. So we're some 19 minutes into the match. Things are steady as she goes at the moment. India are none for 9 into their 5th over now. Rahul's on 1, but Rohit seems to be more the one scoring this morning. He's on 7. Maybe they're going to take turns. Oh, that ball Rahul did play it, and Anderson bowled a good line, but they're still in control, these guys. Juice ball is very, very hard to. Very heavy, dark red, very heavy ball. Comes through, it kind of skids. Hi, Norman. I'm really hoping to see England lifting their cup. Well, you mean that? Well, yeah, they do. Hi, everyone. Hi, Mookie. Mookie is always very good value. He always has great comments to make. So it's 8:20 now, guys, my time, which is 20 minutes into the match. I'm going to go another 20 minutes or so. If you have any questions, please ask, because I won't be here for much longer. I'll be here after the match as well. Should be there at lunchtimes and breaks, but no, before and after is enough for me. They're learning from, they're playing the ball very late and under their eyes, under their helmet, so to speak. Very aware of what to do. Rahul's batting fantastically. Very impressive batsman. He's should have been selected from day one. He's clearly a good player and a good opener. I don't like the fake appeals. That ball went down the leg side and they both jumped up from John, and there's nothing there. Go on, stand upstairs, England, and waste your appeal process. Yeah, James Anderson's amazing, but yes, Sunday for sure. Even I play cricket. Do you play cricket, do you? As a Sri Lankan or an Englishman or as a Fijian? What's your style? Nowhere near the bat. May have clipped his thigh pad at best. My dream is to play for England one day, and the women's, obviously. Yeah, that's great. I think I'm saying, I actually manage a lot of female cricketers that have played around the world currently, like even the Shapali Wirakotis and a whole bunch of them. Now, Mark Wood's played 21 Test matches. He's taken 61 wickets at an average of 33.9. Not necessarily brilliant figures by any stretch of the imagination. So they're bringing Mark Wood into the attack very, very early. This is not even 5 overs, and they're already bringing Mark Wood into the attack. Interesting. And he looks like he's coming from the... I think he's coming from the pavilion. I'm not sure. Let's have a look. So the guests there at Lord's having some nice little cupcakes. So Mark Wood's coming in the bowl and easily put away there on the leg side. They've got too deep on the square, haven't they? Well, Rowett and Rahul seem to be in control. They're not really being tested too much. They're keeping themselves well away from balls on or off stump. Not seem to be too much troubling them. The ball's coming through quite genuinely. So Mark Woods replaced Ollie Robinson from the nursery end. Anderson's continuing from the pavilion end. Interesting. Didn't have Robinson on for very long, did they? Robinson wasn't on for very long at all. Farouk Engineer's there, he's looking quite chubby like I am. He was the main guest. He rang the bell, being a famous Indian former player. All the Indian turbans and versions of turbans floating around. Robert Sharma's looking. I'd love to see Sharma get a century. Lovely shot through mid-wicket region. It's going for beautifully timed. Robert Sharma looking very determined. Looks like Rahul's taking a little bit backwards step and letting Sharma go in the reverse reversing. Whether it was deliberate or not, I don't know, but it's a nice little shot. This is a nice shot indeed. Beautiful shot. But off the bowling of Mark Wood, it's a lot easier to do. He's tried to belt that and hasn't gone where he wanted it to. It's a very interesting match. None for 15 to the 6th over here. My dream is to play for England. Okay, you're a British Fijian. Was punched right in his approach and the first things up to 3 or 5. Yeah, I think it was. Bye, Norman. Stay safe. I'm cheering for England. Good stuff. I love England. That's good. Also, I love Australia and New Zealand. You love everybody, don't you? You're a famous singer. This young girl. Very famous singer. None for 15. So they've got another 12 runs to knock off that lead. Yeah, Sunday, Hapworth Thumb 3. And put in your link to your, that girl has a great YouTube page, guys. Go and check out her music. Young girl, I think she's about 13 or 12, I'm not sure. So Rahul's just dabbed it down, doing very much like what Root did, just dabbed it down through the third man region, and has got a few runs. So India are going along quite smoothly at the moment. Rowett can give India at the very least another 4 years in Test cricket. I hope he gets 100. I do too. I think it's past 5,000 Test runs, which puts him on the leaderboard of all Test batsmen. I want to see him. I want to see him. He deserves it. I'd like to see Rohit Sharma get a century today. I'd like to see Kohli get a century today. Let's see India take a bit of a firm hand on this match. Let's take it to England. So, just let me look at the. Yes, it's a very good match so far. Let me look at it. Bear with me, guys. I'm just checking a few things here. I read that Rowett has never scored a Test century outside India. That is incredible. It is incredible. Hopefully that'll change. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Rohit Sharma's batted magnificently to get his 83 in the first innings, let's be honest. Deserved 100. Got out to a very good ball, though. You can't deny that. Oh, hello, what's going on here? There's been a decision reviewed. Let's have a look. Anderson's bowled a foolish delivery to what's came in quite a bit. It did look close. That's been given not out off Rahul's. There's no bat involved. Crashed onto his pads. No evidence of an edge. Umpire's call not out. Looks like it's just hit the outside edge, not out. So review retained. Therefore, Rahul's not out. Rahul's not out. Wish you all happy 75th Independence Day from the British England hooligans and looters. How good are the conditions for batting sake? Very good. I think a bit of early swing, but not much. Close but not close enough, I'm afraid. Anderson has the same intensity than ever. Bit windy. There's a bit of the t-shirts or shirts that guys are wearing. There's a bit of wind there, which won't necessarily help either bowlers or batters. As is always the case, I can see Ashwin walk around the edge of the field, go around to have some, I guess, some practice. Ooh. I'll hang around another 10 minutes, guys, and then I'll let you guys. What is your take on the barrage of short stuff Anderson likes? Well, it was a way of softening him up. I mean, it's a good tactic, really, because he's bowling to them and bowling really well. If they, got a few bruises on his body, maybe that would have hammered his bowling. So maybe we'll make him more aggressive, which is probably what India would like to do, because they would like Anderson to bowl shorter so they can take him out of the attack. But he's the best bowler on the England side. Give what he gives out. Got him out, didn't it? So there's been 7 overs for 17 runs this morning. Slightly slower rate than 2.43 per over. Slightly slower rate, but still fairly close. Wood's coming into bowl now to, looks like Sharma, and Sharma's hitting the ball very well. Ball's keeping a little bit low. Ball's certainly keeping a bit low. All right, guys, I'm going to be finishing up now. That's just about enough. All right. So all the best. So you keep watching the match. There's no wickets fallen so far at this point in time. You're not asking any questions. So I'm gathering that you're watching the match. There's none for 17. We're into the 8th over now. KL Rahul is not at 4, and Rohit Sharma's not at 12. They've basically trialled by 10 runs. So they're still behind, but not by much. Colley's over firm refusing bowler for taking DRS, gets influenced easily. Quite a departure from his usual persona. Yeah, that's true. He seems to be a bit uncertain. He can't rely on punts because he's a bit of a want to go for everything, and the bowlers are too. He needs to be a bit more settled with the way he's doing it. He's a bit wayward with those decisions. I would agree. So for that matter, it was rude. All right, guys. Again, if you're here and you want to listen, the score is none for 17. India none for 17. There's some 10 runs behind the overall score so far. And lost a wicket, of course. Rahul's not at 4 and Rohit's 12. They're into the 8th over. So it's a very good, steady start to this day's play. Mark Wood's not troubling them at all, really, to be honest with you. Anderson certainly was. Robinson wasn't either. So, give it a few more overs and the balls gets older. I think we're going to see more and more ease to the runs being scored. So let's see. Showing Sangakkara there in the background, who's obviously the chairman there. That's very steady batting. Very, very impressive steady batting. A lot of discussion with Sammy Mcgraw there. Sammy Mcgraw has done very well. He's got himself a role at the MCC. Interesting how a former Sri Lankan player leaves the MCC. I find that interesting. Not that he isn't a good enough player. I'm not saying that, but he is Sri Lankan. He's obviously, he could be anything in Sri Lanka. The cricket board there, but he's basically shunned Sri Lanka. Let's be honest. He's based in England now, and he's MCC chairman. He doesn't, hasn't applied for the Sri Lankan cricket board chairperson. He probably should. And Dipti Sharma, the Indian opening bat, is ringing the bell. Dipti Sharma, who opens the batting for Indian women's team. Good friends with Lakshya Silva, I know her. Lots of Indian supporters are there. Great coloured hats being shown by a lot of the Indian crowd. A very substantial Indian crowd there. Well, they're probably Indian-born English, or maybe second generation, possibly. England bowlers not bowling quite that dynamically at the moment, as we're probably struggling a little bit. All right, guys. I think that's just about enough. So thank you again. Good, happy Independence Day. Happy anniversary. 75th anniversary. Happy of independence of India. Fantastic for them. Jai Hind. Obviously, the other supporters of England have been very happy with the way Root batted there, so 180 not out. And overall, England have certainly come back into the series quite heavily. India still trail by 10 runs. They're none for 17 with KL Rahul on that 4 and Rohit Sharma on that 12. So all the best, guys. Thank you very much. We'll see each other after the match, straight after the match, and tomorrow before the match. Ciao. So don't forget to go Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. Subscribe. Hit the notification button at Norm Koch. You'll both see my Instagram and my Twitter handles as well as my LinkedIn. All the best, guys.